Can budding superstars like Evan Carter, Jordan Walker, and Josh Lowe take the next step to be elite outfielders this season? We have the answer to that and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB, here as always with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you could find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And guess what? If you do that, you might as well send us your screenshot over on the subtext platform, and you'll have a chance to join our coveted listener league for this upcoming season. And guys, once again, we've already given away 2 spots. We're giving away 4 more spots on March 6th, and then we're going to give away the final 4 spots on March 20th. So make sure you get your entries in before then. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes you to the channel and gives you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And guys, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. And Matt, I'm so excited. I say this a lot, but this is my favorite time of year. We're deep diving a tough position at outfield once again, back with the episode 2 here. And we got some really great names here. Some guys I'm loving, some guys maybe not as much. But Matt, take it away. Where are we starting today, brother?
So I'm going to rattle off these first 5, and then I'll give my takes on, if they're actually worth me talking about, whether positive or negative. We're going to cover it, breaking down, down row by ADP, and then going by that and giving a little insight. So first block of 5 guys is Christian Yelich, Jazz Chisholm Jr., Brian Reynolds, Josh Lowe, and Spencer Steer. Christian Yelich is like the most unsexiest pick in this round. He had a decent year last year, honestly. Like, I can't even hate on the dude. Had 19 home runs, had 28 stolen bases, batted .278, brought in 106 runs. The ribbies were, a little bit more, left me desiring more at 76, but ultimately like a good player, good fantasy asset, and has kind of recovered from like his poor year of 2020 and 2021 and kind of had been trending in the right direction. I don't think he'll ever do what he did in 2018. I think those days are, far gone, and don't know why, but just could never get back after those 2 brilliant years. So, I mean, I'm still picking him.
He had a lot of injuries, a lot of back issues.
Yeah, there's that, but also too, just like, I don't think he's got it in him. Even though like you see the EV and max EV.
We agree.
Yeah, like those numbers are all actually on par with those 2 years. It's just not there, and it is what it is. But I mean, I like the price too. It's not outrageous. It's just my target is usually the person I'll pick over him, and we'll talk about him in the next round. Then there's Jazz. He's one of my busts this year, truthfully.
Yeah, we'll save him for later, right? Yeah, we'll talk about him later.
We'll talk about him later. And then you got Brian Reynolds, who's an interesting one. Started off the year hot as hell, came out of nowhere. I didn't think he was going to start the year as good as he did, and then was really really interesting. There's not much I could say other than just not a sexy pick, and again, still not better than the guy at Target, which is the next guy, Josh Lowe, who again I'll talk about in a little bit. And then I'm giving a lot of inside baseball today. I'm doing real great at teasing. And then Spencer Steer, who we've talked about in nauseum. So, ultimately, still think it's too high of a price, especially over the guys in the next bracket of guys. So, I mean, honestly, he's like a stay away, especially for your outfield. I would use him more to be like, your second base or wherever else his eligibilities are besides outfield, truthfully.
Yeah, Matt, great takes. I'm just gonna add to Yelich and Reynolds, just stabilizers. kind of, if you went super risky at, earlier in your draft and you want to take one of them, as a lower end outfielder number 2, which is kind of, where they're going. Yelich is coming off the board pick 73, Reynolds is coming off the board pick 83. You could definitely take them as stabilizers, but as Matt said, not very sexy picks, not guys that I'm targeting either, not guys I found myself drafting a lot of. So, just kind of just mediocre picks there with them too. As Matt mentioned, we're going to get into Jazz and Josh Lowe a little bit later. And Spencer Steele, Matt, great take. Once again, we've talked about him a lot. Somebody that Matt and I are kind of, really just not drafting much of this year, but could see the reason you want to take a guy that's going to hit in the middle of a good lineup with Spencer Steer in a great ballpark. I can see it, so don't get me wrong there. But let's move into these next 5 names. We got Nick Castellanos coming off the board as the 23rd outfielder, pick 101. George Springer, the 24th outfielder, pick 103. Evan Carter, 25th outfielder, pick 111. Seiya Suzuki, 26th outfielder, pick 112. And then Anthony Santander from the Orioles, pick 121 as the 27th outfielder. So with this next group of names here, Nick Castellanos, not a sexy name, but I feel like he's going kind of low compared to guys like Yelich and Reynolds going above him. I definitely like Castellanos a lot better than them. So I think you're getting great value on him this year, going as, a low end outfielder number 2. There's definitely room to profit on taking Nick Castellanos where he's currently going. So I really do love that pick. George Springer is a guy who we're going to talk about a little bit later for, reasons you will see then. Evan Carter, it was a big, a big choice for me to not take him as my target for today's episode. I'm going with somebody else who we'll talk about, a little bit later, but Evan Carter is definitely somebody I am, all over this year. Want to take Evan Carter everywhere I can get him. He did have that little issue with the forearm scare, but, they did say that, it's not an issue. I think he was back in the lineup today on Tuesday as we're recording this episode. So nothing to be worried about with Evan Carter, super young, going to be hitting somewhere, I want to say maybe 5th in that Texas lineup, going to drive in a lot of runs this year, has a lot of power, has got speed as well. So Evan Carter could potentially be a 5 category guy. I really want all of the exposure to Evan Carter that I can get this season. Next up, Seiya Suzuki, somebody who has a lot of opportunity to grow. I really do like Seiya Suzuki on the Cubs. They get Cody Bellinger back, and Seiya Suzuki was injured a little bit last year, trying to adjust to playing in the U.S. I really think he's got a great combination of power and speed. So another guy, that's going around your 3rd outfielder. Maybe in some situations you get him as a utility bat. I really like that. Anthony Santander is a power play. Not really going to give you, a crazy good batting average, but at steal bases, he's going to give you, a good amount of pop though. Matt, anything you want to add on these names before we move into the next 5? Or
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on the Evan Carter. Nick Castellanos is also somebody I'm really targeting. I love that dude. I'm actually surprised that I've seen his ADP rise over Evan Carter because he was much higher at one point earlier in the season. I guess maybe the injury is scaring people a little bit off Evan Carter, but he's just supposed to play in like the next 2 days. So
I said before, he's playing today. He's back.
Yeah.
He's back in the lineup today.
So boom. But yeah, I think Cassie's going to follow up last season with a little bit more action, and that lineup is that much better with, I think, Turner on all 4 cylinders this year. So I like him a lot. He's going to be very sneaky. But let me get these last couple names in the next minute. Actually, no, let's save it for the next section here. I'll just ride this out to the end and just talk about, Seiya Suzuki, another guy I like out of that group. He's an interesting one. Cubs, Bellinger coming back also, improves his upside because I feel like if Bellinger didn't re-sign, he was falling in my rankings. And that was pretty much where I thought Bellinger would side. I obviously hoped for him to go to someplace else, but I figured he'd end up back with the Cubs because they're going to be the ones that pay him the most. And this is very beneficial for him and PCA. So I think Suzuki's going to benefit from that lineup getting a little bit more bolstered as well. So the fantasy relevant for him is going to be really nice. But, before we go on, we finish this last block of like 7 guys. And then we give you our targets and avoids. We got one ad break for you. Today's episode, I'm reading the wrong one. I'm sorry. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA teams and players with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. And since this is a baseball podcast, I'll give you a little inside baseball, my new favorite term. I've been saying boatload. Bet on futures for this season. You're not going to be able to get the $5 winning bet thing, but you will be able to say, hey, like, okay, I'm going to go win some money because it's great odds on Ellie De La Cruz for most stolen bases for the season. And it's great odds on Bobby Witt for the same bet. You know, there's a lot of fun stuff you could do there in terms of that I think the odds right now are being overlooked. So I'll go and take a look at that. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Locked On has launched its first ever national 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering top stories of the day with local experts on Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel. That's awesome. But here's a better one, even though I love what's going on in the 24/7 channel. We're introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Dive into this offseason with Dom and I. We provide you with tiered-based rankings with over 100 outfielders and 100 starting pitchers ranked. You'll also get our exclusive access to our prospect prospect insights, sleepers, breakout, busts, personalized draft grades. And if you have burning questions, we've got the answers. As the season unfolds, rely on our dynamic content. Get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury reactions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy leagues by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where your path to victory begins. Subscribe now. Elevate that fantasy baseball experience with us to new heights, new levels, and so much more. And also, too, those prospect call-up alerts are text messages. Well, everything's text message. But those came in handy for a lot of our listeners when Yuri got called up. I was right on top of it for everybody. You know, when
Ellie De La
Dominguez got the
Cruz.
call, Ellie, I was on that, on top of us telling you to stash them weeks and weeks early. But when these guys get the call up, you know, we shoot you that text. So like it is very valuable and you don't want to miss it because I'm a little bit itchy for these guys. So I shoot out the text message. But anyway, let's get back in it. Let's hit these last bit and then we can get in our targets and avoids. No more advertising for now. We got Lane Thomas, Teoscar Hernandez, Jordan Walker, Cedric Mullins, Estoy Ruiz, and Marcell Ozuna. Lane Thomas, he's one of those guys I'm not breaking the late age breakout, and I don't like the draft price either. But if the dude starts falling in drafts and he's there and, you know, you're able to catch him as your UT spot, or you feel it's been a significant value, I'd totally go for it and just try and see what the upside could be. But I just don't think he has a safe floor, especially with that team. So I'm avoiding him in those regards. But Teoscar Hernandez, I think, is, you know, slowly creeping up ADP now that he has a home and on the Dodgers, you know, after being acquired. And, you know, he's already looking like a beast in spring. So I'm excited to see what he's gonna look like. And, you know, everybody that's feeling the hangover from him last year with a slow start, I think we're pretty much like avoiding him at all costs. I would say rethink that and look at what he did in the second half. J Dub, just like we teased in the beginning of the show, Jordan Walker, I think has a nice season. You know, I think he could do 25 home runs with, you know, 25 stolen bases. If that lineup can get back in check, I think that he can have, you know, anywhere from 85 to 100 runs and ribbies. And also depending on when he, you know, where he's hitting in that lineup. And the batting average should be anywhere from like, you know, 255 to 275, which is a little bit more of a broad range, but ultimately I think he'll be fine. Um, Upside is going to be phenomenal. I mean, there's a possibility of him doing 30-30 or even, you know, 30-20. There, Jordan Walker's ceiling is way higher than his floor, and obviously so. So I think he's going to be great. Cedric Mullins, I hate where he's hitting in the lineup. So if you were, you know, here earlier with us, I had him ranked so much higher. As I see where his projections has stayed in that lineup, he's obviously fallen in my rankings significantly. Ruiz shouldn't even be the size. So, like, just don't even look at him. He's
Do
not
you have the haterade out, Matt? Is it there?
It's just non-existent for him. Like, he shouldn't be getting
Okay.
drafted this high. And Marcell Ozuna, we will talk about later. So, Dom, I don't know if you have anything to add on these guys. If not, just go for your target or avoid.
Yeah, I'll just give a quick small little take on everybody. Lane Thomas, you broke down pretty good there. I don't think that power is legit. The 28 home runs is an outlier for, on the underlying statistics and his whole career. I don't think that power is legit. Nor do I think the 268 batting average is real. I think he's going to be a lot closer to his 250 career batting average. And then the counting stats on that Nationals team, I mean, I don't know if he can do what he did last year, the 101 runs and the 86, RBIs are a lot. The speed's real though. He's definitely fast. So the 20 steals is legit. But I really think Lane Thomas is someone that just takes a step back in all those categories, and he's coming off the board as the 28th outfielder. So you're looking at him in 12-man leagues as your, high-end outfielder number 3 for Lane Thomas. I'm just not doing it. There's a lot of guys going after Lane Thomas that I like a lot more. So not really happening for me. Matt, great take with Teoscar Hernandez, a guy that I love to draft this year. The big stat for me on Teoscar Hernandez was, in Seattle, which was the hardest ballpark to hit in last year. He hit, I think it was about 219. And then away from Seattle, he hit 293. So I think Teoscar Hernandez is, going to hit in a way better park to hit in Los Angeles, and he's going to be very good. Matt, great breakdown on Jordan Walker. Don't really have much to add just besides I love Jordan Walker, and I think you should definitely draft him. A lot of room to profit on Jordan Walker coming off the board as the 38th outfielder at pick 125. Cedric Mullins is an interesting guy because, that power speed combo is sexy with, being on a very good team. So, the runs and RBI should be decent, but as Matt stated, he's not going to be hitting in a great spot in the lineup. So, if you want a guy that's got, I think, 25 homer, 30 plus steal potential, decent batting average, he's good. Esther Ruiz, Matt, I agree. I'm not really like going crazy to, draft him, but if you need a steal specialist, you can go out and grab him. And then as we move in to our next part of this episode where we're going to do some targets and avoids, let's talk about this next guy. Let's talk about Marcell Ozuna, who's absolutely my target. I will say this: Ozuna's only available at outfield in Yahoo leagues. So if he's not available at outfield in your league, I can see you wanting to move him down a little bit, but I still even think he's worth the pick as just a utility hitter. I don't know why Ozuna is being discounted so much. I know he's kind of had a career that's been very up and down, but the guys had a monster season last year. Ozuna had 84 runs, 29 doubles, 40 homers, 100 RBIs, and hit 274. He's a career 270 hitter with over 1,300 games played and almost 5,000 plate appearances. And he's just back in the middle of that Braves lineup, hitting fourth. So that power's legit. The RBIs are legit, and he's going to give you a plus batting average. So even if he's elite in those 3 and you're getting him as a utility or a third outfielder, you're laughing all the way to the bank with Ozuna.
Yeah, buddy. I love Ozuna for every reason you just said it, even though it looked like I wasn't paying attention. No, all seriousness. I mean, what's not to love? And this draft price is really great. So at this point, like last year, I was not really on board, even going into the preseason, but I've come around on it. And
I love that. I actually love to hear that.
like, I mean, hey, as a fantasy community and as an analyst now, because I could say that now, hey, you got to stay water. And, the more I dive
Love
on
that.
Ozuna,
Love that.
the more I dive on him, the more I like him for where he's going. And I like him in my UT spot. I don't have to worry about him being a starting OF. And if I am, that's where I'm a little bit more nervous. I don't think that I'd leave the draft with him as a starting outfielder. I think that's my breaking point. But based off of how I construct my teams, I never have to worry about it because I usually have 3 top 30 guys on my team. So I usually do a pretty good job at that. So it's really nice to have him. Really great power, especially if you drafted a few like 5-tool guys, or not even 5-tool, like more of a stolen base guy. Like say you drafted Nico Horner and you're missing out on the power. Ozuna is a great compliment to him. So I
Well
love
said.
it. So we got one last ad break, and I promise that's it. And then I'm gonna talk about my target, and then we got our both avoids. The haterades coming out in full force. So you're gonna want to see that. I got pinkies up. I got a little bit left to go. So right before that, just bear with us.
And guys, we're talking to you about Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. That's why you need to check out the Gametime app. Gametime is fast and easy. It's the best way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Using the Gametime app is super rewarding with flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, images and views from the exact seats you'll be sitting in, their lowest price guarantee, and event cancellation protection. And guess what? They have all-in prices showing your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets and their lowest prices always guaranteed. So, all right, Matt. Who were we lining up next? Were we going for Haterade? Were we going for a Target? I'm just as anxious as I think the fans are.
All right. I'm actually going to be nice for once instead of being a
Ooh.
negative Nancy. And I'm going to go with Josh Lowe. Josh Lowe is one of my favorite guys to target. And he's always there for some reason. And I can't comprehend why he isn't higher. Like, I would draft him over the three guys that went ahead of him. That's Yelich, Jazz, and Reynolds, because Josh Lowe just not only has the upside, but I think has a really safe floor. And he's a nice outfield stabilizer, especially as I like to pick other risky guys. Like, usually, like if I get a Trout, I really want a Lowe on my team. But, you know, even if I get how I sometimes am able to get like an Aaron Judge, I have a Lowe, or I even go a nice outfielder, and then I get an Alvarez in the second round. I'm talking real risky guy. I at least have Low. Somebody that's going to be able to produce every week. Maybe not to the Alvarez level, don't get me wrong, but somebody that has some great upside and also is a 5 category contributor. Last year was a really nice breakout season for him, a full season too, I might add. 466 at bats, 71 runs, 33 doubles, 2 triples, 20 bombs, 83 ribs, 32 stolen bases. Um, Barely walked in that regards, 31 walks to 124 strikeouts, but still batted 292, which I really liked. You know, he's really going to hurt you in points leagues, honestly, even though he has a boatload of doubles, because that strikeout rate is just too much. But it is what it is. For categories, he's the primetime suspect, even with an OPS at 835 for those kind of leagues. You know, he's pretty masterful for categories. And I think that the run upside this year, especially with the addition of Caminero and such, I think is going to really bolster up what he's going to be able to do. It's going to be really nice to see where he's going to be hitting that lineup. You know, ultimately, I also think he's got
I
another
think they got
5
a
home run.
projected fourth.
Yeah, which is great. And I think he's got another 5 to 7 home runs in him, all honesty. I think the power is there. So, you know, I'm not saying he's going to be a 40 home run guy, or, you know, a 30 guy year in, year out, but think of it this way. He could have a Freddie Freeman early power level, where, like, now Freddie Freeman really didn't get power till he was like almost 30. Well, I think Josh Lowe is kind of on that, where like you'll see like a 25 to 27 home run season year in, year out. And then I think one year it'll just click, and then boom, he's the 30 to 35 home run guy. I'm talking 5, 6 years down the line. He's a great dynasty play. I love Josh Lowe. You don't see me talk too highly like this about too many guys. Josh Lowe is one of those guys.
Yeah, Matt. Yeah, I couldn't have done the take better myself. Spot on. Love the kid. Only 25 years old. Going to be 26 this year for Josh Lowe. Honestly, just very, very well broken down there, Matt. Speed's legit. He can grow into some power. Josh Lowe's a big boy at 6'4", 205. Could definitely tap into some more power there for sure. But very, very well said, Matt. I'm targeting him everywhere. And, you know, Matt and I aren't really giving away our rankings that much anymore this time of the year, because if you want our rankings, you might as well just join us on Subtext and go over there and get our rankings. Josh Lowe is just somebody that's been moving up mine and Matt rankings a lot. That's why I mention it. So if you want the rankings, go get them on Subtext. But with that being said, let's move into I think I'm gonna have to get negative now. I don't really like to do that much on you guys. I'm usually a little bit more of the positive voice of reason over here, but I got to throw out some hate, and I'm throwing out my hate on George Springer. It's not that I don't like George Springer, but he's going kind of high for my, liking. I know he was 2020 last year, but for, basically taking him as an outfielder number 2 at pick 103, 24th outfielder off the board, it's just not something I'm doing anymore. George Springer isn't, he's 34 at the moment. It's just not doing it anymore. It's not the Houston George Springer where, he's going to be a monster. The batting average has taken a dip. He's striking out a little bit more than he used to. So he's not helping you in points leagues, and really, 20 steals with the 20 homers. That Blue Jays team is good, but George Springer played 154 games last year. That's the most games he had played since 2016. George Springer's also injury prone. So there's just so many other ways that I want to look at that point in the draft. And we talked about Evan Carter and Teoscar Hernandez and Jordan Walker. These are all guys that are going after him and I think are going to be better. So I'm just not I'm not drafting George Springer this year.
Dude, I'm right there with you. I mean, like, he's just not as good anymore. He's also the team around him, I feel, is still lacking and leaving me desired just based off of the names that are there as well. A lot of things have kind of gone down for him, and I don't throw out too many stats like this, but his barrel percentage is down.
Yeah.
Max EV. I mean, his EV isn't impressive. His max
not
EV
as fast as he's not as fast as he used to be.
Yeah. His max EV is still on pace. That's the only thing. Like when he hits the ball hard, like really hard, when he gets it, it's great. But that's just like recording his highest of the season. Essentially, it's nothing great. And the launch angle is even down from there. And again, I'm done with the stats here. But I'm just not. Oh, and hard hit is even down. But like, I'm just not really happy with George Springer. I don't want him on my fantasy teams either. If you can, avoid. I'm not going to say he's going to be a bust. I think he probably does exactly what he did last year. So it is what it is. Now let's get into my last one. And this is more of an indictment on the physical attributes of this player in terms of being able to stay healthy versus an indictment on their actual talent and skill. And it's Jazz Chisholm. He's on my bust list this year. Jazz can't stay on the field. He hurts me more than Alberto Mondesi because I like Jazz and I thought he wasn't going to end up like him. And I think that this dude is not just made out of glass. He's made out of like, I want to say cotton candy because like if he gets caught in a rainstorm, he's pretty much just melting away. And that's really just all it is for me. I just don't think the dude can stay on. It's my toe, it's my ankle, it's my this, it's my that, it's soft tissue. It's things that just I don't like. He's also a skinny little boy too. Like there's things that just don't like. Like, I mean, my guy's 5'11", 184 pounds. Like, dude, like you're not going to be, ready to go. Even though, and again, I'm not pooping on his talent because when he played in his only 352 at bats last year, he still had 19 home runs in that short time, still batting 250. Like that's exactly what I expect from him. And 22 stolen bases. If the dude were to ever somehow, shape, or form stay healthy for a full season, you're talking a top pick the next year. But I just don't think he'll ever get more than like 430 at bats. And that's what 60 more at bats. So add 3 home runs and about 10 more stolen bases if he's really running that crazy. Like it's good production, but I'm not touching him with a 10-foot pole when I got to make it a full season in order to get in the playoffs. So Jazz Chisholm is off, especially for this draft price. If for some reason the ADP falls, then we can start talking about it again. But right now, no bueno.
Matt, you've been on fire today. I really haven't had much to add to any of your takes because they've really been so spot on, and I could tell you're ready to go for draft season. As am I. Yeah, just great take on Jazz. The talents for real. Can you stay on the field? That anybody can answer that question. I will say this: if anyone thinks that there's upside for batting average, I really don't see it. The plate discipline's really bad, and that underlying stuff looks really bad for that too. But you know what? That's pretty much the end of this one, guys. So make sure you like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And also shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And guys, we'll be back tomorrow finishing up outfield. But guys, until then, See ya.
Peace.